I started a new season of Lord of the Rings Rise to War about 2 weeks ago now, and playing with and against a group of new people has reminded me of some early game and even PvP style mistakes that people commonly make in this game. So I wanted to make a video talking about those mistakes and what you guys can do to avoid them. Let's get into it. All right, guys, mistake number one, and lucky for me, I actually caught this in action as I was recording the video. This is not pre-recorded footage, but mistake number one that I see people still doing all the time is sending marches that take a ridiculously long time to land. When you're PvPing and you send out a march like this that's going to take 10 or 15 minutes to land, you are very likely going to be bounced, which is going to waste your time and your stamina. It's a common mistake and it's very easy to avoid. What you want to do is, let's say this guy was moving from this fort here and he wanted to come up and contest these tiles. He should have moved his army a little bit closer, maybe to like this 150 here, and then moved up based on the the situation at hand at that point. But since he just sent the army all the way from the fort to this tile, he is getting bounced. I'm not exactly sure why my friend here is guarding. Maybe he's just preemptively activating it, but as you can see, that guy bounced. That's 20 stamina gone, 24 minutes going one way, and then 24 minutes going back. I guess the icing on the cake, the silver lining, is that he will get his stamina back by the time his army makes that round trip. However, he's either going to have to wait an extra 24 minutes or he's going to have to use some recall speedups. So far, it seems like he's just going to let them wander back, but it's still a mistake that people make, and do your best to avoid it, as these long march time armies are very, very easy to bounce. Mistake number two involves commanders. I think a lot of people invest in too many commanders each season. I tend to recommend people either have 2, 4, or 6 primary commanders, depending on your level of investment. I think most people are going to fall into the 2 or 4 category. If you're a free-to-play player or light spender, I would say you should pick 2 and focus completely on them in terms of respect and equipment. If you are for most people, so anywhere between like a dolphin and a whale, I would say 4 commanders is probably your best bet. And if you are a super heavy spender that can actually afford to fully gear out 6 commanders and respect up 6 commanders, then by all means run 6 commanders. The reason I picked 2, 4, or 6, actually, I don't even know why I went to my Gandalf, because I cannibalized his gear. All of my gear is currently on these 4 commanders that I just clicked through. But the reason that I picked 2, 4, or 6 is because in the early game, when you're just starting out taking 200 tiles, for most people, you're going to need 2 commanders to do that. So if you have 1 commander, they're going to have to double tap the tile, and that's very stamina inefficient for that 1 commander. If you have 2 commanders, you can send them both, and they will take it. If you have 3 commanders, you'll have 1 pair of commanders that can take 200s and then an odd man out, which is why I think you should jump from 2 to 4. After that, the 5 or 6 will solely depend on your level of investment, but if you have 6 fully geared commanders, that is 3 pairs of 2 that can go out and take tiles for you. I would pretty much never recommend anybody main more than 6 commanders, because if you have 6 fully loaded commanders and you put them on a tile overnight to defend it or a crossing or whatever it may be, if all of them get attacked and you get fully wiped out, your apothecary will not overflow as long as it was empty when your armies all got wiped out. If you have more commanders than that, you really run the risk of overflowing your apothecary unless you babysit it very, very carefully. So what you'll want to do, in my opinion, is pick the main commanders that you want to play with, get them to as high a level of respect as possible, and upgrade their gear as much as possible. That's because in the mid and late stages of this game, particularly when it comes to PvP, it's all about troop efficiency. And having a R10 plus commander with full purple gear is going to get you a lot more bang for your buck in terms of troop efficiency than having 3, 4, or 5 commanders sitting at like R3 with just baseline gear. Gear is very important, as are respect levels in this game. So base it on how many commanders you feel comfortable fully equipping and PvPing with. If you're not going to actively PvP with that commander, you should probably not invest in them. Of course, at the end of the day, it's your money. You should spend it how you wish, just my opinion. And mistake number 3 that I see a lot of people making that is easy to avoid, particularly in the early game, is upgrading extra troop buildings. I've talked about this in some of my early game videos before. I'll click through my buildings here. As you can see, pretty much none of my extra troop buildings are upgraded. And this is right about at the 2-week mark, a little bit before the 2-week mark in this server's lifetime. I think I'm a little bit behind on building things. I had a pretty relaxed early game for once in my life. I mean, I upgraded the elven stuff because I had to for chapter objectives. I got my bow knights because I'm running primarily cavalry commanders this season, which means I also picked up Cavaliers, didn't touch the Bowman range, didn't touch Dunedain, although I probably should unlock them since we're fighting against Linden now, and they are quite solid against Elven factions. And I'm working towards Guards at the Tower, but they're not a very high priority for me. I don't even know if I would ever use them. I was considering running them on King of Men, but I don't think I'm going to PvP with my King of Men this season, so I just took it to 2 of 6 and stopped. And same thing on the Dwarven quarters, Durin's Folk quarters rather, have not even unlocked Guardians yet. I do need to do this for Siege in general, but I just haven't had the extra resources. I've been focusing everything on recruiting troops so that I can constantly be PvPing and farming tiles, and upgrading the other more important buildings like the Military Academy, the Conscription Post, and the Apothecary 10 of 10. Those 3 buildings, the Mill Academy, Conscription Post, and Apothecary, in my opinion, those are like the must-have buildings maxed out for when you start PvPing in this game, because you're going to want the 4 conscription slots, you're going to want to heal as quickly as possible, and you want as much command on each of your commanders as possible. After that, I would take every single troop building that you're actually going to be recruiting up to 6 of 6 because it provides a considerable conscription time reduction. And I think it's also important to max out your quarters because that increases the amount of gold you get per levy. More gold means you can upgrade your troops faster. You don't have to worry about gold when you're building forts or dropping fortresses for your fellowship/warband. And tributes are pretty nice as well. Honestly, the extra resources is useful, but the tributes will partially depend on how well your farming went early game. If you went absolutely crazy and played a million hours in the first few days, and you're already stocked up on 200 power tiles exclusively, then you probably won't need the tributes. However, for most people, I think you're going to want to upgrade the tributes. All right, guys. Well, those are 3 mistakes that I still see people making. Let me know if any other mistakes that you guys see people making, and I'll catch you in the next one. Phoenix, over and out.